Ministry of Labour and Social Security. Based upon those acts and government policy, the government then structures programs to fulfill the statutory obligations in law and those in policy. Through the Ministry of Local Government, there is a social housing program, and that runs aligned very well with their duty to treat with issues to do with poverty in various localities. They have a duty to provide shelter for the homeless, so they build homes and various homeless shelters, but they also have a duty to provide shelter to persons that they have deemed to be in need of shelter. The Minister of Housing also has a mandate to assist persons who are in need of shelter, either through the lease of property, the sale of property, the rental of property, or the construction of new property, or grants to improve property. Now, the government, even before now, since 2009, and even before that, through various programs under what was then the SESP, the Social and Economic Support Program, which morphed into the CDF, Constituency Development Fund, the government, even at that time, provided some assistance for building, for supporting households that are in need of repair. So then the social housing functionality is spread across various arms of government. So there is local government, there is the CDF or social development, and then there is the Ministry of Housing. It is possible that you could have duplications. It is possible that someone could apply under the CDF, apply to the Ministry of Housing, and apply to local government. And it is possible that they could get all a benefit from each.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness, as I said, he was speaking in Montego Bay this afternoon during the handing over ceremony of one of the new social housing program houses. We're going to now switch over to another matter of importance that happened today, and that is a interview that the PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell had with Emily Shields on RGR's Hotline program, where he confirmed that the party leadership had entered negotiations with the ousted caretaker for Central Kingston, Lawrence Rowe, in exchange for removing him from the seat. And again, we thank Emily for that interview and providing us with the audio. Rowe was ousted as caretaker on Sunday and was replaced on Wednesday by former Senior Superintendent of Police Steve McGregor. Rowe says in exchange for him accepting the decision without fuss, party leader Mark Golding made several promises to him, and Dr. Campbell confirmed that Rowe was told that two of those promises would be considered. So, as we get that audio queued up for you listeners, just the context. Just not too long ago, we received a statement, a very brief one-paragraph statement from the PNP, not really addressing the issue, but suggesting that much of what Rowe said would be what they said against the sanctity and the proper process of the People's National Party. But let us hear Dr. Campbell's response to Emily Shields.
Mr. Rowe said he was told that he doesn't have to be in the 63, but he can be in the 30, which I think is speaking to the number of Senate seats that are available if you're in government. I said I'm going to discuss these matters and get back to you. Again, the leader of the party is the person who decides on who the senators are. There are three issues that were brought up. Issue of compensation for funds that were expended before, issue of possibility of a board appointment, and the issue of possibility of being in the 13 as he had placed it. When I discussed it, I told him categorically there was no possibility of any funding to be given to him, that was a no, and that the other two things would be considered.
So, Dr. Dayton Campbell there talking with Emily Shields. So, Rose says he has both written and audio evidence to prove his allegations, but Dr. Campbell denied offering Rowe $15 million in resources. He says Rowe instead explained that the money was spent in the constituency and that he wished to be reimbursed.
He made mention of the fact that he had expended a lot of resources. I asked him how much, and I think eventually he said $15 million. So a candidate that is in a constituency would have expended resources, as one can assume. He said he spent $15 million and he would want to be reimbursed some of that money. I asked him how much he would want to be reimbursed, and he settled on, I think the final figure he said was $7 million. I told him that I would have the discussions and get back to him. I had the discussions and it was agreed on that we have never reimbursed a candidate as much as it would be considerate and a compassionate act to do so, but we've never done so and that we will not be doing so.
I understand my co-host Sandra, you're with me now. It's been
I
quite
am.
a difficult evening so far.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing quite well.
Wonderful.
Well, I mean, there's so much to unpack here, but let's finish up what Dr. Campbell said with Emily Shields. He says he met with Mr. Rowe 4 days after he was notified of the decision to remove him as PNP caretaker for Central Kingston.
Did you also meet with Mr. Rowe, you alone, on the 30th of December 2024?
Yes, I did. After the decision was taken, Mr. Rowe messaged me. He said, wow, and he said that he's in a dark place. I asked him whether or not any options were discussed, and he said none. So when I met with him, I said to him that the decision is already taken and it is final. There are two options that are available. You can go scorched earth, or you can go the other way and play a role. And I expressed to him that if he went scorched earth, he would make every single detractor say, see, we were right. I was trying to impress upon him to say, yes, this is a difficult decision, but it is not the end of the road for you.
And that's Dr. Dayton Campbell, the General Secretary of the People's National Party. And he says that the party alone seriously started to consider, the party, I beg your pardon, only seriously started to consider Steve McGregor as the constituency's caretaker after December 27.
When did the PNP begin to consider Steve McGregor as a candidate for Central Kingston?
Well, his name came up about 2 years ago.
In this recent reiteration of everything, when did the PNP seriously consider Steve McGregor for Central Kingston?
After the removal.
Which is on the 27th of December or on the 10th of January 2025?
No. So after he was told that he was removed in December.
Dr. Dayton Campbell there speaking with Emily Shields on Hotline just this afternoon. So as I said, a lot to unpack there, but just to say that if what Rose said no go so, as they would say in Jamaican parlance, it go closer. Based on what Dr. Campbell has said here. And based on what Dr. Campbell has said here, it is now quite clear why the People's National Party did not want to go down the wicket in their statement and why Mark Golding did not want to go down the wicket when he addressed the constituents of Central Kingston, I believe it was on Wednesday.
Yeah, and as I indicated yesterday, the PNP, they had to address it. It's unfortunate that this interview did not take place much earlier instead of that release that the PNP had put forward to the media when the matter became public initially. I haven't heard the entire interview, Siobhan. I am not sure if he had addressed why Rowe was removed as the party's caretaker. That I would also want to know if he had addressed that in the interview with Emily Shields.
No. Hearing what Dr. Campbell has said here, now, this should not come as a shock to many Jamaicans that in the matters of political infighting and just decisions, there tends to be some horse trading where people say, all right, we're not going to utilize you here, and we're not going to, but we might have a place for you here if you would be willing to step aside and allow X to take over. So Dr. Campbell has said as much, but the more serious allegation regarding the contribution of funds, the $15 million, I don't know if that has been fulsomely addressed here. He's suggesting that the party leader said straight up, no, that would not happen. So that is still where there is still some distance between what Mr. Rowe has said to us and what Dr. Campbell is saying here. And the only response I can say is this, that if Mr. Rowe has a differing opinion from Dr. Campbell, he should come with receipts. He should show what written and audio visual evidence he may have to back up his interpretation of what Dr. Campbell is suggesting.
That's exactly what I was going to suggest, because there's no question about the board appointment. There's no question about the Senate appointment. Where we're seeing the difference is with that 15 million. And Dr. Campbell is saying it's a reimbursement that he requested. But based on what Lawrence Rowe is suggesting, we didn't get that impression that he's asking for a reimbursement of funds that he would have expended in the constituency.
Very well. Listeners, we're up on the headlines, so we will come back later with more. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
The cover story was brought to you by New World Home Improvement and Detail Cleaning. Detailed cleaning for your business and home.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
6 o'clock.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Mahiri Stewart. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is dismissing as baseless criticisms of the new social housing program as a duplication of already existing government facilities. He is responding to a report tabled by the Auditor General, Pamela Monroe Ellis, which called into question several of the country's social benefits schemes.
Speaking directly for the new social housing program, which has been unfairly, unreasonably, and baselessly concluded as a duplication, which is, I will reserve my comment, that there is a committee comprised not only of members from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, but there are persons from HEART, persons from other entities who all come together to look at the case. And in that expanded overview committee, they are able to not just say what other benefits persons should get, but if this person has already benefited, or should they benefit. So that's one, the very robust system of checking beneficiaries.
As part of her performance audit, Mrs. Monroe Ellis found that the various social programs had similar objectives and overlapping functions with little to no coordination. By way of example, the Auditor General noted that the Poor Relief Program, the Social Housing Program, the New Social Housing Program, and the Constituency Development Fund all provided, to some extent rather, similar benefits. However, Mr. Holness is calling into question her conclusion.
So from the point of view of the beneficiary being able to access multiple windows, yes, there could be persons accessing multiple windows, but is that a duplication? Not necessarily so. Then there is the issue of doing double work. Is the work of the new social housing program the same as the CDF, and is it the same as what the Ministry of Local Government? And the answer is no. The new social housing program has a different mandate from that of the CDF, from that of the Ministry of Local Government. The new social housing program is carefully designed.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness. PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell has confirmed that the party leadership had entered negotiations with ousted caretaker for Central Kingston, Lawrence Rowe, in exchange for removing him from the seat. He was speaking on RJR's program Hotline with Emily Shields on Friday. Rowe was ousted as caretaker on Sunday. He was replaced on Wednesday by former Senior Superintendent of Police Steve McGregor. Rowe says in exchange for him accepting the decision without fuss, party leader Mark Golding made several promises to him. Dr. Campbell confirmed that Rowe was told that 2 of those promises would be considered.
Mr. Rowe said he was told that he doesn't have to be in the 63, but he can be in the 30, which I think is speaking to the number of Senate seats that are available if you're in government. I said I'm going to discuss these matters and get back to you. Again, the leader of the party is the person who decides on who the senators are. There are three issues that were brought up. Issue of compensation for funds that were expended before, issue of possibility of a board appointment, and the issue of possibility of being in the 13 as he had placed it. When I discussed it, I told him categorically there was no possibility of any funding to be given to him, that was a no, and that the other two things would be considered.
Rowe says he has both written and audio evidence to prove his allegations. But Dr. Campbell denied offering Rowe $15 million in resources. He says Rowe instead explained that the money was spent in the constituency and that he wished to be reimbursed.
He made mention of the fact that he had expended a lot of resources. I asked him how much, and I think eventually he said $15 million. So a candidate that is in a constituency would have expended resources, as one can assume. He said he spent $15 million and he would want to be reimbursed some of that money. I asked him how much he would want to be reimbursed, and he settled on, I think the final figure he said was $7 million. I told him that I would have the discussions and get back to him. I had the discussions and it was agreed on that we have never reimbursed a candidate as much as it would be considerate and a compassionate act to do so, but we've never done so and that we will not be doing so.
That's Dr. Dayton Campbell, PNP General Secretary. Government Senator and psychiatrist Dr. Sapphire Longmore is questioning opposition leader Mark Golding's mental capacity to lead the country. Dr. Longmore raised her concerns during her State of the Nation presentation in the Upper House on Friday. Dr. Longmore made it clear she was not attempting to make a critique based on race.
Now, Mr. President, I am not here to critique, to say, talk about the mockery that was made. I'm not here to say that, look at the fact, this is not a color, skin color thing, no. Out of many, we are one people. But Mr. President, for me, it is the decision-making process of someone who is seeking the leadership of this country. My son is there, and when I was preparing this slide, I did not want him to see this because I introduced it to him. I introduced it to him in the right way because in my mind, the leader of the longest black democracy in Jamaica, in the world, should not have the possibility of that image being found.
Dr. Longmore was referencing a controversial skit including the opposition leader. However, Dr. Longmore says for someone seeking the highest office in the country to even be caught in such a position leaves their decision-making in question.
Whatever made him make that decision to do that, it causes me to question his capacity to make decisions as a leader. I am not talking about skin color. I'm not talking about the fact that he was playing a skit to remove the shackles of the God. No, this is the image that is embedded, that is there now for the world, for every generation. Can you imagine this now? We are going fully into being a republic, and this or the possibility thereof, and this would be the image that we would have of our Prime Minister.
Dr. Sapphire Longmore, government senator. A weak attempt to distract from a lack of transparency and bad governance practices that have plagued the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, KSAMC, since the PNP reassumed control of the corporation. That's the reaction of Deputy Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, to recent statements made by current KSAMC Chairman, Dr. Andrew Swaby. While addressing the first monthly meeting of the KSAMC on Tuesday, Mayor Swaby laid blame for a breach of the building code at two controversial developments at the feet of his predecessor.
Now, we had to be very clear to state that Estate Bridge had applied for a permit, a building permit and planning permission, that they provided the drawings and all the accompanying documentation, that the application went through the building approval process and an approval was granted and a permit issued. And they proceeded to construct after receiving the permit. On the other hand, the Jack Den Group did not receive a permit, proceeded to construct, completed the construction work without a permit. That's clear. That is the difference between the two.
Mr. Williams says by attempting to lay blame at his feet, Mayor Swaby is seeking to distract the Jamaican people from the real issues.
The mayor is trying to conflate two issues that are just not related. And I would also say, I believe it's an attempt to distract from the issue that is referred to as the Hush Money scandal coming out of Central Kings. It's also an attempt to distract from the lack of good governance and the lack of transparency that has plagued the administration since it took office in February.
Delroy Williams, Deputy Mayor of Kingston. Those are the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Sports is next.
Jamaica, let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one republic. We on the road to republic. Well then, let's propel we nation, moving forward in a new direction. True independence, that's the projection. No more dependency, it's the best plan. Yes, we know what's best for us, cause we want we country prosperous. So make we just pull together as the general public while on the road to republic. Jamaica, let's spread the word around to let the world know that we are proud to be one republic. We on the road to republic.
A message from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
We on the road to republic.
Sunday, February 16, 2025 will be pure energy and excitement as thousands hit the streets, running, walking and wheeling with a purpose. The Sagicor Sigma Run isn't just a road race, it's a celebration of people coming together to make a difference. Don't miss the Caribbean's biggest running event, Sagicor Sigma Run 2025. Visit SagicorSigmaRun.com and register now. Run for the fun, donate for the cause. Sponsored by Walden, Pan Jam, National Baking Company, Reggae Marathon, Catherine Speak, Malay Media and Whistling Frog.
You can have it all. Company events, birthday parties, or the wedding of your dreams. It's all possible at Grand Palladium Hotels and Resorts. We have magnificent event rooms and a dedicated team that will make your event the best experience that only Grand Palladium Hotels and Resorts can offer. Contact us at 876-619-0000 or call your favorite travel agency and ask about our promotion designed especially for you.
Public opinion.
Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a JLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
It's the weekend and the youth are taking over the airwaves. Yes, we are the new voices and faces of the Talk Up You radio show. The voice of the Jamaican youth right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
After a busy week of work and school, come and wine with Jamaica's #1 youth radio show.
We're bringing you entertainment, fun facts, and staying true to youth development and advocacy.
Catch the action each and every Saturday as we roll out buzzy segments. What say you?
Youth for chat,
life skills,
global connect, and Bust the Youth. That's the Talk Up Youth radio show. Saturdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
Talk Up Youth, Miss Effie.
Talk Up Youth. Don't miss it.
Good evening with your sports report. I am Alric Swaby. We blow things off with some cricket as Pakistan will resume on 143 for 4 on day 2 of the opening test against the West Indies at Multan Cricket Stadium. Saeed Shakil, 56, and Mohammad Rizwan, 51, are the not-out batsmen. Both have so far shared in a 97-run fifth wicket stand. Captain Shane Masood, 11, Mohammad Hurari, 6, Babar Azam, 8, and Kamran Gulham, 5, are the batsmen back in the pavilion. Jaden Seals took 3 for 21 and Gudakesh Moti picked up the other wicket. Seal says his plan was simple going into the match.
Just to build pressure, and as a fast bowler in Asian countries, you tend to want to make a big impact and you want to do well for the team, as is obviously dominated by spin in these conditions. So as a fast bowler, I always want to get a wicket or be in the game, and it so happened that I got the wickets for the team today. No pressure. I mean, international cricket, you expect the players to be good, and you have to back yourself and match up with players skill for skill, and on the day, who is the better man on the day will win, and it so happened that today, I was the man today for the team.
He says winning the toss was important to their early success.
I figured that he was watching my hand a bit, so I just tried to deceive him, and it so happened that it paid off, and I think as a bowling unit we did really well, so it's just to back it up again tomorrow. The toss was important, yes, because of the way the pitch looked, but saying that, I think going forward in the game, the spinners will come into the game a lot more. It may reverse swing at some point, but I still think that the spinners may dominate in this game moving forward.
Jaden Sales. Now to netball, as president of Netball Jamaica, Trisha Robinson was thankful for the partnership with Best Dressed Chicken to support the Sunshine Girls' journey to the 2027 World Cup in Sydney, Australia. The corporate entity signed a 3-year sponsorship deal with the association valued at $16 million. Robinson says the sponsorship is a long-term investment in the continued growth of the sport.
Your continued support is not just an investment in netball. It is an investment in the dreams and aspirations of our talented young ladies, our athletes who proudly represent Jamaica on the global stage. We're also particularly thrilled to acknowledge Best Dressed Chicken's sponsorship of our Margaret Beckford series against South Africa. This series is more than a set of matches. It is a celebration of excellence, resilience, and the enduring legacy of a pioneer who paved the way for the development of netball in our country. With your support, we're able to, while showcasing the incredible talent of our Sunshine Girls in this prestigious competition, enlighten Margaret Beckford's vision.
She says the sponsorship will help to fuel the team's journey to the World Cup.
Best Dressed Chicken has always been a champion of community and nation building, and your partnership reflects a deep commitment to the growth of sports and the empowerment of our athletes. Through your generosity, you're not only providing financial resources, but also inspiring a nation and fueling the passion of young netballers who look up to the Sunshine Girls as their role model.
Regional Marketing Manager Avadan Sinclair says Best Dressed Chicken remains committed to continue to invest in the dreams of Jamaica's women and girls.
Picture a young girl in Jamaica, netball in hand, holding a dream to rise high and wear the black, green, and gold with pride. Today, Best Dressed Chicken is proud to invest in that dream. For years, we've been steadfast supporters of Netball Jamaica, building a strong personal relationship with the team. And we've never stopped, Karen, just in a smaller way. This sponsorship for us is just more than just support. It's a commitment to ensuring that Jamaica's netball legacy continues to thrive.
Avadan Sinclair. The Sunshine Girls are set to play a 3-match series against South Africa at the National Indoor Sports Centre on January 18, 22 and 25. Now to track and field, as Camperdown's Rihanna Lewis threw a personal best 29.09 meters to win the Under-17 Girls Javelin at the Throws Fest Series 1 at Jamaica College's Asinine Stadium today. Veers Ninka Kamere was second with 27.87 meters, with her teammate Swayze Ann Black third with 26.98 meters. The boys' title went to Kendall Turner of the Bahamas with a personal best of 48.71 meters, with Niquel Abram of Grenada second with 32.29 meters. And track and field fans has 3 events to choose from to quench their athletics thirst locally. They may attend the Big Shot Invitational at Excelsior High, Central Hurdles and field events at GC Foster College, or the McKinley Wind Track and Field Classic at Calabar High tomorrow. All 3 meets starts at 8 a.m. Now to horse racing, as veteran jockey Georgia Sang says he's honored to be recognized by Caymanas Park. The Georgia Sang meet is the first of 3 quarterly meets named in honor of the legendary jockeys at the park. Sang dominated both local and international racing. He won the champion jockey's title in Jamaica from 1972 to 1975. Sang also secured the jockey's title in Canada from 1979 to 1981. He was also inducted into the Jamaica Thoroughbred Racing Hall of Fame. The feature race on tomorrow's 9-race card at Caymanas Park is named in his honor.
I've never been recognized with this
such high honor. Plus, I've never heard of a jockey being named for a race meeting. That is unprecedented, and I had a sleepless night when I heard of this. I know this is just a big deal, and to be honored by the place of my birth and where I started riding is such overwhelming to me.
The $1.25 million overnight allowance contest for 3-year-olds and upward over 6 furlongs has attracted a field of 10 runners, each vying for the top prize. Osang says there's no clear favorite.
The race came up very competitive. There's 4 horses in a race that looks like anyone can win it. And that's what we were aiming for, a competitive race. I have to thank Mr. Denzel Miller for putting on such a race. It was upgraded, he told me, to better horses in that race. So your pick is good as mine, and whoever bet on the race, all I can say to you is good luck.
Georgia Sang. Now to footballers, former champions Mount Pleasant Academy and Arnett Gardens will meet in a top-of-the-table clash in the Ray and Neville Jamaica Premier League at Draxall Sports Complex on Sunday. A win for Mount Pleasant will see them extend their lead to 6 with 43 points. Meanwhile, a win for Arnett will see the Junglists join Mount Pleasant on 40 points. However, Mount Pleasant will remain on top with a superior goal difference. Forward Shaquille Bradford has so far scored 8 goals this season. This includes a double in Mount Pleasant's 3-2 win over Racing United on Monday. Bradford says he is willing to play any role that will bring the team victory.
I can play anywhere in the front three, anywhere the coach put me, I got to deliver.
Shaquille Bradford. In other fixtures, Humble Lion play Chapelton Maroons, Tivoli Gardens take on Dunby Holding, Portmore United face Harbourview, and Vere United play Waterhouse. Leaders Liverpool will seek to return to winning ways when they travel to Brentford in the English Premier League at the G-Tech Community Stadium tomorrow. The Reds are winless in 2 outings in 2025. They were held to a 2-2 draw by Manchester United on January 5 before coming from behind to earn a share of the points with Nottingham Forest in a 1-1 draw on January 14. In other fixtures, Newcastle are at home to Bournemouth, Leicester City host Fulham, West Ham take on Crystal Palace, and Arsenal face Aston Villa. Manchester City striker Erling Haaland has signed a new long-term deal with the club that will keep him at the Etihad until 2034. The Norwegian joined City from Dortmund in 2022 and has scored 111 goals in 126 games for the club since.
For 2.5 years as a City player, I've been winning loads of trophies, playing lots of good football, having so many great moments together with the whole club and with the fans and everyone. I still remember the rainy parade as maybe the biggest or best moment because it was so typical Manchester parade and everything around, So it's been amazing, and it's been like a dream these 2.5 years.
The striker's previous deal, which reportedly included a release clause, had been due to expire in 2027. Haaland's new deal would see the striker remain with City until his 34th birthday, should he stay at the club until it expires in 9.5 years' time. The length of Haaland's deal is the longest in the Premier League, eclipsing the 9-year deal Cole Palmer signed with Chelsea last August. Haaland says the new deal gives him the opportunity to create a real legacy at the club.
I'm going to stay for a long time, so now I can fully focus on getting better because I'm going to stay for such a long time. So full focus on performing, on getting better, and to give all the fans what they want.
Erling Haaland. And finally, the Miami Dolphins have been confirmed as host for the first NFL game to be played in Spain next season. Madrid's Bernabeu Stadium had already been named as the venue, with the Dolphins announced as the designated home team on Friday. That follows confirmation that the Indianapolis Colts will host the first regular season game to be held in Berlin in 2025. Madrid and Berlin are the latest host city for the NFL's International Series, joining regular host London with 5 overseas games so far confirmed for the 2025 season, matching the previous high. The dates and opposition for those games will be announced when the full 2025 NFL schedule is revealed this spring. London will again stage 3 NFL games in 2025, with the New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, and the Jacksonville Jaguars the home teams, but there could be as many as eight international games next season. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell also expects to return to Brazil and Mexico, with a first game in Ireland a possibility. I'm Alex Swiby, and that's your sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612 to 5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:23.
Visit Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore, for all your prescription needs, gifts, personal care, household, and stationery items. The temperature by Marshall's Pharmacy, Greater Portmore is
28 degrees Celsius in City Kingston and 27 in Montego Bay.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall. Our Total Tools. Weed whacker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand. Total Tools. We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jackson, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
The Jamaica diaspora sends over $3 billion back to Jamaica per year, but it is too complicated for them to open investment accounts in Jamaica and invest their money. Blue Maho Capital has unlocked diaspora direct investment, and we are helping to move the Caribbean forward. Learn more about us at www.bluemahocapital.com.
Excelsior Pass Students Association Network of Champions cordially invites you to our 94th Annual Founders Day, Sunday, January 19th, 2025, under the theme, Honoring Our Legacy, Building Our Future. Church service commences at 9 a.m. in the auditorium, located at 137 Mountain View Avenue. Guest speaker, Bishop Dr. Marcel R. Fullwood, class of 1983, Partners Worship Center, Canada. Following the service, join us for brunch and entertainment at 11 a.m. in the auditorium. Entertainment by Harold Davis, Prilly Hamilton, Akeith Nugent, and Shanika Jeffrey. Contributions only $5,000. For further info, call us at 876-898-8294 or email xlcrpsasecretariat@yahoo.com. Don't you miss it. Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. It's Friday. I'm Robianne Williams. Good evening to you. If you're in the hearing of my voice, rather. A special good evening to our friends on our YouTube platform. Thank you for always tuning in. You know we like to hear from you, so we ask you to weigh in live in the comments section on today's Public Opinion. Let's get to it. So the big news for today, the U.S. Supreme Court has unanimously upheld the federal law banning TikTok. The ruling holds that the risk to national security posed by its ties to China overcomes concerns about limiting speech by the app or its 170 million users in the U.S. Now, the ban is set to take effect on Sunday unless parent company ByteDance sells the app. According to reporting from the Associated Press, a sale does not appear imminent. Experts say while the app will not disappear from existing users' phones, once the law takes effect, new users won't be able to download it and updates won't be available. So the Justice Department system is saying that it will eventually render the app unworkable. And you know that many Jamaican content creators monetize TikTok, the video sharing social media platform, and they are bracing for significant financial fallout because many of their gifters, are in the United States. So in public opinion this evening, we're asking your reaction to U.S. Supreme Court upholding the ban on TikTok. I'll start quickly with the comments on our X platform, where 2025 Best is saying their business, we good. Jamaican government just need to regulate, and users here need to be responsible on the platform. Christina Dennis, level the playing field because a lot of US based social media apps are either banned or restricted in China. Yeah. I stand with Andrew Holness saying, great news, let them go get a real job. And I've often heard people say, people that on social media, them figure look at work. But guess what? It's monetized. They can make money from it. They can make an honest living from social media. Chris Duncan is saying, good, it's a security risk. That's on Instagram. On Facebook, to the question we're asking, what's your reaction to the U.S. Supreme Court upholding the ban on TikTok? Audley Phillip is saying that only the U.S. can determine what is best in their national interest. They have determined that TikTok is a threat to their national security because of the Chinese government involvement and input. It is not far-fetched to believe that China is using TikTok to spy on user countries. They are good at that. Philip Jackson is saying, well, let's see the moral values as of that with malicious intent or trade war. Only time will tell. Prince Wellington, love it. Looking forward to our Supreme Court upholding the IC recommendations. Wow, we're gone down a slippery slope there, Prince Wellington. Yeah. Margaret Gentle said, banning TikTok is like taking sweets from a child, even though I am one of them who don't make money from TikTok. But I love to see what's going on with TikTok sometimes when you're depressed and need to get out of it. Just turn on TikTok. You find some videos amusing. You laugh until tears run from your eyes. She says it's so sad. And I can tell you, sometimes when you open TikTok, you dip on it, just a scroll, and hours pass, and you not even realize the time. Yeah? Robert is saying, what that have to do with Iron Man? It never say Banyardis. Well, what it will do, Robert Ranger, is it will affect those Jamaican content creators who have monetized the platform and who earn an income from it. Christopher Isaacs has zero to do with me. Clifton is saying most of the gifters from the USA. Only Trump can save them now. Imagine that. Natalie is saying let the market decide. Shins for Life Law. TikTok is a major distraction to decency and easy money making for idlers who don't want to work. Wow. Yeah. Let's see what the YouTubers are saying. Kingsley asks, oh, Derek, I go do. I see you there. Let me see if I can get in a few more. Iron Lady said, me never go on TikTok. Never go on TikTok. Let me see. Mick Hill is saying, good for those who use it for propaganda, bad for those who use it properly, making good content. Wise Emissary says, closing down the propaganda app is no problem. And Pauline Taylor say, go look at work. Yeah. I think for some, it's easy to understand in a sense where they do earn from it and they consider it as a work. Some may even consider it to be their 9 to 5. Erica Barnett says, don't use it, don't care. Yeah? Booker T is saying, wait for Chinese backlash. Bogues believe that sure will teach them a lesson. Yeah? And SH saying, would not affect me, don't use it, don't even know how it look. Yeah. All right, Pauline Taylor again saying that they shouldn't sell. All right, let's see. I am waiting patiently to see what will be the outcome, what will happen. The CEO of TikTok, he released a video alluding to a future for TikTok in the US, and he's applauding the commitment of President-elect Donald Trump to work with the app. So let us see what will happen. Yeah, Sunday, January 19, the ban is slated to take effect. Cindy Lynch says, I have it on my phone, but don't use it. Ronaldo asks, 1 AM TikTok. Yeah? MDL, I don't care. I have been working from I was 17. Everyone should find a job and contribute to the country. In essence, they do contribute to the country, because they still have to go to the supermarket and they still have to do this and pay a GCT and all kind of things. Let me see. Leonard Seville says people who depend on TikTok for a living need to go get a real job. Lots out there. I mean, it's the changing of the time. And one would say you have to get with the time. I don't know. It's for these people. The content creators, they make a living out of it and it will affect them. Josephine says, I don't care. Strong link. TikTok has been abused by Jamaicans. Too much nastiness and wickedness is sometimes promoted on it. That can impact young innocent minds, needs to be regulated, but how? I don't know. I mean, as a parent, you in your household, you have to know what's going on in your household. Some parents don't, and you have to monitor your children's phone. That's how I would go about doing it for my child. You have to monitor the phones. Baby Toy says some Jamaican take TikTok out of proportion. I can agree. I agree with that. Carlene Smith is questioning, what is a real job? Is it that when you get your monthly salary, that's what you would consider to be a real job? Or when you can make a $10,000 a day from TikTok or from any other social media platform? Is that a job? You're still getting income? I don't know. To each his own, yeah. That my grandmother tell me, to each his own. Maxine is saying Jamaica needs skilled people. Because of TikTok, no skilled persons can be found. Layla says banning of TikTok is not the end of the world. Go get a skill. Yeah. And Cross believes content creation takes a lot of work. It's sad how Americans are doing this. Listen, I try to create a video, like a day in the life of a reporter or something like that. It's hard. It's hard. Hats off to these content creators. Some of them are the foolishness, but some of them really put in the work and really make effort to use the platform how it really should be used, or use the platform in a good way. Blessed Child said, lock it down. Too much lazy beggars. I'm to the tops and the roses. Herman says, ban it. Yes, go to the heart. Go to heart. Oh, go to heart. Yeah, ban it and go to heart. The road less travel is saying, regardless of which social media platform, it is an uncertain future. It is important to have presence on more than one. Agreed. Very much so. Very much agreed. Some questions here. A lot of questions. Desnem say Heart Trust is free. Yeah. But let's see the outcome of it come January 19. That's Sunday. We await the outcome. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for participating in Public Opinion. The Business Report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:36.
Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today.
The temperature by IQ Optical is
28 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 27 out west in Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Liberty Latin America, operators of Flow Jamaica, has announced the planned consolidation of its Finance Global Business Services, FGBS, in a move that could impact jobs locally. The announcement was made by Liberty's Senior Chief Financial Officer and Senior Vice President Chris Noyes in a statement on Friday. He says the new FGBS office will be established in Bogota, Colombia. Following this transition, the company will no longer have FGBS operations in Jamaica. However, Mr. Noyes says this decision will not affect the local Jamaica finance team, reporting to Yanis Gentles. Further afield, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has upgraded its growth forecast for the UK economy this year, but has also warned about the possible impact of Donald Trump's economic plans. The global institution upgraded its prediction for UK growth to 1.6% for this year from its previous estimate of 1.5%. But it said a threatened wave of tariffs by incoming U.S. President Trump could make trade tensions worse, lower investment, and disrupt supply chains across the world. The IMF also said, although tax cuts could boost the U.S. economy in the short term, they could ultimately backfire. And finally, in the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 157 Jamaican dollars and 49 cents to buy $1 US, 193 Jamaican dollars and 44 cents to buy £1 British pound, and 110 Jamaican dollars and 23 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Good evening.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, will host the Health and Wellness Career Expo and Employment Fair, January 22 and 23 at 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Attendees from all schools are asked to confirm participation via email to rsvpcareerexpo@moh.gov.jm. Expect interactive booth displays, entertainment, free health screenings, and more. See you at the 2025 Health and Wellness Career Expo and Employment Fair. A career in health, the roadmap to success.
Registration is now open for Sagicor Sigma Run 2025. Register now and get ready to run, walk, and wheel for a cause. Our beneficiaries are Sir John Golding Rehabilitation Center, Father Holang and Friends Foundation, and the Kingston Public Hospital. Be a part of Sagicor Sigma Run 2025. Make sure you're there on February 16 for the Caribbean's biggest road race. Visit SagicorSigmaRun.com and register now. Sponsored by Walden, Pan Jam, National Baking Company, Reggae Marathon, Catherine's Peak, Millet Media, and Whistling Frog.
Get ready for a day of inspiration and innovation at UCC BDCI's Conversations for Greatness. Join us on January 23 at 10 a.m. at UCC, 17 Worthington Avenue in Kingston for an exciting and informative day of activities. Connect with industry leaders like Michael Andre Collins, join interactive workshops, and witness a live pitch competition that could transform business ideas into reality. Don't wait. Visit www.bdci.co to register now. Conversations for Greatness, where great minds meet and future leaders are made.
Want to reduce your high electricity bills? Then Peak Energy has the solution for you. From grid-tied to hybrid solar inverters with full lithium-ion battery pack. Installation and maintenance packages available. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hill, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
Get ready for a day of inspiration and innovation at UCC BDCI's Conversations for Greatness. Join us on January 23 at 10 a.m. at UCC, 17 Worthington Avenue in Kingston for an exciting and informative day of activities. Connect with industry leaders like Michael Andre Collins, join interactive workshops, and witness a live pitch competition that could transform business ideas into reality. Don't wait. Visit www.bdci.co to register now. Conversations for Greatness, where great minds meet and future leaders are made.
None of mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team. Fridays at 8 p.m., with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Good evening, listeners and viewers. It's 6:42 and it's time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. And Siobhan, the Health and Wellness Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, has pointed to data from a study done by the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, that's CAPRI, which shows that 20% of Jamaican children have a mental health disorder. The issues range from anxiety to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and conduct disorder. The minister says 35% of Jamaicans with mental health disorders reported onset of the issue before the age of 14.
63% reported onset before the age of 25. Speaking Thursday at the formal opening of the Child Adolescent Wellness Center in St. James, Minister Tufton says the first study he commissioned after being appointed minister in 2016 was a mental health and wholeness passport report that led to a series of policy changes regarding how to address mental health in the population. Among them was the goal of creating a more community-based approach to interventions such as the Child and Adolescent Wellness Center.
I say all of that to just place why we are here in context. This is absolutely a necessity. And the people who are going to benefit from this, I am sure will be extremely appreciative. The persons and institutions who are contributing to this, I want to salute and say a big thank you for that. And from a health perspective, Ministry of Health and Wellness, this for us is an essential partnership as we seek to build societies starting one community at a time.
And that's Dr. Christopher Tufton, the Minister of Health and Wellness. The center, located at 1 Humber Avenue in the Second City, opened its doors to clients on November 12. To date, close to 30 clients have been seen by a team consisting of 1 mental health nurse, 2 psychiatric nurse practitioners, a social worker, and along with an admin assistant and a clinical attendant. Head of the center, mental health psychiatric nurse practitioner, that's Takia Brown, said the center is currently being promoted in schools and the workplace.
She says parents are becoming more comfortable seeking help for their children despite the stigma. And joining us to discuss further are the Mayor of Montego Bay, that's Richard Vernon, and Senior Clinical Psychologist at the Western Regional Health Authority, Georgia Rose. Good afternoon, Sir Vernon and Madam Rose.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Madam Rose, and to your listeners.
So, ladies before gentlemen, Georgia Rose, how has the work thus far of the Adolescent Center, the Children and Adolescent Center, impacted the mental health and wellness of our youth down there in Montego Bay?
Thank you for that question. So the first thing I want to advise is that child and adolescent mental health services have been offered in the region for over 30 years. So the service offering is not new. What the center represents, however, is a targeted space that is intentionally there to provide these services in a more holistic manner. So we have been providing the services for years. We now have a space that centers around that. We no longer have to share this space with any other service. And that then gives us the privilege to really create an environment that we believe speaks to and promotes mental health and wellness.
And Mayor Vernon, what role does the municipal corporation play in supporting mental health programs like these?
Well, we identify cases through the Poor Relief Department, and we usually work with KUMI and all the necessary entities that enable us to address the mental health situation that we have within the parish. So we have a list of persons who are also on our roll of 4, and they are seen by the entities from time to time. But this particular focus approach is very welcome. It's a big deal for the city of Montego Bay and for Western Jamaica, because it particularly targets youngsters. And some of the times when we see the early signs of mental health challenges, we have to nip it in the bud, and that is why the center is important for a city, because it aligns with our strategic direction in terms of achieving sustainability here.
Georgia Rose, these type of mental disorders, usually they are first detected in schools. Do you work closely with the schools in terms of identifying individuals who might be showing signs of behavioral disorders?
Yes, we do. So you are quite accurate when you say a lot of our referrals do come through the school systems, and the Ministry of Education is one of our most valuable partners when you think about our child and adolescent mental health services across the island. I want to commend the Ministry of Education because in the last few years, they have also been very invested in...
Ms. Rose, are you there? Oh dear, it looks like we lost Ms. Rose. We'll come back to her shortly.
Mm-hmm. So let me just jump to Mayor Vernon then, because talk to us about how the city is engaging residents to bring awareness about mental health issues, particularly among children and adolescents.
Well, we work through the St. James Health Services, and the St. James Health Services is so designed to carry out the sensitization in schools, and whichever forum that is available for them to execute the sensitization campaign. So that is how we primarily work to spread the word of mental health. But we have also engaged the Autism Center, the Montego Bay Autism Center, because that's another component of the project that we will be looking at in the future. And we are keen on providing some type of support to the Autism Center so that it can expand and take care of much more of the cases that we have within the city. For some reason, we realize that these cases are popping up more frequently, and I guess that some research would guide us as to how or why this is happening. But until then, we will continue to play our part in helping the center where possible, and work closer with the Ministry of Health through the St. James Health Services to address these cases.
And Richard Vernon, tell me exactly, I know it said about 30 people so far have been assisted by the center. Is there any intention to expand the services of the center?
Well, there were, ideas touted pertaining to expansion, but not immediately. And as you would know, the center is based on the Citizen Security Program, which brings together all the different agencies within the Ministry of National Security, Health and Wellness, and Education. And having that focus approach to address the situations pertaining to mental health, the clinical ones in particular. But there are also other services that the center offers, such as engagement of the patients and the clients that utilize the area. We also are keen on the support that is given by the information center that is just next door. And sometimes they will also get referrals from the information center, because that is where they go for homework, the students after school. And we, for the city of Montego Bay, why this is a massive project, it is because when we look at our statistics, it is telling us that 70 to 80% of homicides, for example, are related to gangs. And another 70 to 80% of the homicides committed by gangs are associated with guns. But what we need to get to, while we try to get the guns through our Get the Guns campaign and other methods of policing to reduce the inflow of guns and the distribution of guns within the country, we have to get to the point of addressing what causes a person to pull the trigger, which is psychosocial intervention. And that is why it is important to us. So while we talk about the statistics, getting murders below a certain number, a certain target, each year we set a target and we try to work towards it. These are some of the initiatives that we must have to ensure that we can meet these targets. It's not just about policing. Psychosocial intervention is important, and early signs is important to abate such behavior in the future. So once you can identify these students in the school, oh, that boy is not just a bad boy. He may have strain dealing with at home, domestic abuse, intergenerational strain, moving from one family to the next, and this child is just a victim of strain in the home. And you need to look at the situation individually, address the situation from that point, because if you do not, later on that child, male or female, may very well try to associate or identify, and by trying to push towards that may end up in a gang that will also be associated with the numbers that we are speaking to. So this is important for us, and the expansion of it is even more important because it means now that we can address the many cases that we have. I think some point in time the number was given that we have about approximately 22,000 cases in Western Jamaica to attend to. So this is a drop in the bucket, but a very good start, a strong start to something greater.
You touched a little bit on where I was going to head next, which is the plans to expand this kind of service to other areas of Montego Bay. Is there a timeline in place where we will see a rollout of more of these centers across not just Montego Bay itself, but the rural communities within St. James?
Speaking of a timeline, I couldn't give you that. That is primarily from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, particularly because we would have to use the primary health care unit in the near future or immediately to execute the program. And that will have to be curated by the ministry. So I couldn't speak to it directly, but I know that there are plans afoot to expand the intervention across communities. And primary health care is important because we get to go to the communities and provide access to the remote residents who may or may not be able to go to the town center at our Type 5 clinic. So we have to reach out to them in the communities and ensure that they get tip-top attention where healthcare is concerned. And healthcare is not just about the medical, it's about the mental health situation that we have to deal with. And you have heard the numbers pertaining to how many of our residents across Jamaica that are affected by mental health challenges and how many of them actually need psychological attention. So it is a big situation, and I don't think enough of our people take mental health serious. And that is one of the reasons we perhaps may have not been aggressive in terms of rolling out programs and initiatives like these in the past.
Ms. Rose, I understand you're back with us.
I'm back. Yes.
Welcome back.
Please assist me. Let's say a child has been identified in a school as being disruptive because of a behavioral challenge.
Right.
What is the process now to get that child assistance when they're brought to the center? I'm sorry, Ms. Rose?
Are you
your line is very
Nice
spotty
vibe.
there, unfortunately.
No,
We're
not hearing
going to
our
try to
call.
reach you again, Ms. Rose. Your line is very spotty. But let me go back to you then for a second, Richard Vernon. This matter of the establishment of the Child and Adolescent Wellness Center in St. James, what is the process of, say, a mother or a parent who says that they have some issues with their child and they'd like to get in contact with the center? Do you have any information that you can provide to our listeners as to how they go about doing that? Ms. Rose, are you there?
Yes, I am. Are you hearing me?
Yes, quite
Wonderful.
clearly.
Yes.
Yes. It depends on the symptoms that are being exhibited by the child. if the guidance counsel, who is primarily the referral point, believes that this is outside their scope of capabilities, because our guidance counselors are trained and do an excellent and competent job, they oftentimes will call us because they do have an intimate relationship with us where they can discuss the children or the clients, whatever way we want to label it. They are then sent to the center where we do a screening or an intake to ensure that we are the right point of contact. Because we also want to educate and advise that there can be organic and medical conditions that contribute to behavioral changes and problems or challenges in the management of behaviors. So we need to ensure that this is a psychological or a mental health issue before we proceed. Once it is determined that we are the right and appropriate space to provide the best intervention for the child, we then engage in a treatment plan that incorporates the family and the school as much as possible. And this is a multidisciplinary approach. We have our psychiatrists, or social workers, our mental health nurses, and our psychologists. Our children might also need external referrals to speech and language pathologists and therapists, and also occupational therapists. So it is a multifaceted, multidisciplinary approach to ensure that we really are meeting the needs of our children.
Understood. Go ahead, Sanjay.
Oh, I was saying, Ms. Rose, with 35% of Jamaicans reporting the onset of mental health disorders before age 14, talk to us about how important it is to have early intervention. And I also want to know if there are specific preventative programs in place to address issues before they escalate.
So extremely important. We now have a full appreciation, and the statistics tell us, the studies support it, that early intervention in terms of mental health support and wellness goes a long way in preventing the presentation of a mental illness later in life. There is a very robust study that was conducted known as the Adverse Childhood Experiences, and there's a lot of data that supports that children who experience ongoing trauma early in life are at a greater risk for the development of a major mental illness later in life. We know that abuse of all forms has the capacity to rewire the brain in such a way that it makes a child fragile and more at risk for things like learning disorders and disabilities, behavioral challenges, socio-emotive difficulties, and a range and a host of other mental health illness. Now, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has a very robust and targeted program in mental health education and promotion. And what we recognize is that we have the privilege of engaging our communities through our schools, or churches, or community groups, or private sector in providing that awareness. Mayor Vernon spoke about us not having a fulsome appreciation of the value and the importance of our mental health. People like to associate, let me say some individuals associate mental health with mental illness. We want to remind that the absence of a mental illness does not mean you're mentally healthy. And a mental illness does not develop overnight. We are very interested in mental illness prevention. So we want to promote and support good mental health practices. And what do I mean by that? Adaptive coping strategies. Teaching our children how to cope with challenges when they face them, because stress is an inevitable part of life. Helping our children to identify what are the mechanisms that they have within them and around them to help them manage their difficulties in a healthy and safe way. And these things are done through the health and family life education curriculum that exists in our schools, health promotion that is undertaken by our nurses and nursing aides throughout our communities, and various groups. You find more churches and private sector organizations will invite mental health specialists to come in and do presentations such as, building effective communication strategies with your children, stress management, self-care. And we really, really, really want to encourage all our partners private and governmental, to incorporate mental health in the dialogue of their workspaces and a part of their wellness and health programs. The National Health Fund has also been one of our partners that heavily promotes mental health and wellness within all of its health promotion activities. So there are lots of activities that are on the ground. Some of them are more popular or more known and promoted than others, but there is constant engagement at all times.
Have to leave it there. Thank you as always, Georgia Rose, and she is the Senior Clinical Psychologist at the Western Regional Health Authority. And we also have Richard Vernon. He is the Mayor of Montego Bay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me and wishing you all the best.
Thank you for broadcasting this.
Wonderful. All the best. We're going to take the break, and then when we come back, we're going to go over to the U.S. The U.S. Supreme Court. They upheld the TikTok ban. So what's next for TikTok? We're going to have a clip for you after the break.
GK1 now introduces third-party motor insurance from GK General Insurance. Download and log into the GK1 app, then select one of 3 affordable third-party options. The time by GK General Insurance is
7:03.
Enough power tool, big to small. Chaka my figure dig the wall. Our Total Tools. Beat back a figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand. Total Tools. We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slipe Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Are you equipped to protect your organization from financial crime? The University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, in partnership with the Anti-Money Laundering and Financial Crimes Institute, is offering internationally recognized certifications in anti-money laundering, improved compliance with certifications in FCPA, fraud risk management, countering the financing of terrorism, and more. Visit www.ucc.edu.jm or call 876-906-3214 for more information.
Come into the parlor, there's a welcome there for you.
Welcome to the Mayor's Parlor with Desmond McKenzie.
From 1 to 6 p.m. every Sunday, you'll now get more of your favorite vintage music.
Put your head on my shoulder.
Nationwide 90 FM will transform your Sunday into a musical time machine that will take you way back.
Come with me, let's go back in time.
This magic moment.
Journey into yesteryear with Desmond McKenzie in the Mayor's Parlor.
I've got the music to jog your memory and make you smile.
Put your sweet lips a little closer to the phone.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the best in vintage music.
Come into the Mayor's Parlor every Sunday between 1 and 6 p.m. here on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the third and final hour. And as Sanjay said, we're going over to the U.S., where the Supreme Court has unanimously upheld the federal law banning TikTok. The ruling holds that the risks to national security posed by its ties to China overcomes concerns about limiting speech by the app or its 170 million users in the U.S. The ban is set to take effect on Sunday, unless its parent company, ByteDance, sells the app.
According to reporting from the Associated Press, a sale does not appear imminent. Experts say while the app will not disappear from existing users' phones once the law takes effect, new users won't be able to download it and updates won't be made available. The Justice Department says that it will eventually render the app unworkable. More in this report from the BBC.
Straight to breaking news from the US, the Supreme Court, that judgment around TikTok, it has just come in. Let me read you the one-line ruling that we have so far. The US Supreme Court rules against TikTok's challenge to that law that would force a sale or a ban applying in the United States, and that ban comes into effect on Sunday. They heard the representations from TikTok. We were waiting for that judgment. It has just come. So let's head to our North America correspondent, Nomia Iqbal, who's there in Washington. And Nomia, tell us more.
Yes, so it's not a surprising ruling. The US Supreme Court had indicated that it was likely to uphold this legislation. Now, it was signed by President Biden last year, and it was a bipartisan law. So it was as bipartisan as you can get when it comes to modern-day Washington. And as you mentioned there, if it will go into effect on Sunday. Now, just to sort of say, what does a ban mean? So if you have TikTok, it doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be arrested from Sunday if you're using it. If you already have TikTok as a user, and remember, there's 170 million people in this country who use TikTok, the app will not be available to you on these platforms like Apple and Google and so forth. So you won't be able to update it, or any of the kind of security updates. The app can get buggy and what have you. You won't be able to update it, and eventually, the view is that it probably could get killed off. If you haven't got TikTok, then it won't be available to you to download. And basically, the heart of the battle has been this whole argument about free speech and, whether or not, this is TikTok's argument, this should be allowed. But lawmakers say this is about national security. Now, it's worth mentioning that President Biden has left it to Donald Trump's administration to implement this law. But Donald Trump, who was the first person to actually talk about wanting to ban TikTok, has now done a U-turn on it because it was very successful for him in the presidential campaign. And he has said that he wants to save TikTok. Exactly how he'll do that, we don't know.
Yes, and his national security advisor, or the incoming advisor, has already indicated that the president-elect is looking at ways perhaps around the ban. As you say, they were anticipating the Supreme Court would go this way. As you say, Donald Trump has flip-flopped. He supported a ban, then he used it so successfully in his re-election. He's even got the TikTok boss apparently invited to the inauguration on Monday. So do we know any of the details when those advisors and officials say he's looking at ways to work around this, how they would work around this?
Well, they've not given us any details yet. And yes, he does have the CEO of TikTok at his inauguration, which gives you a sense of, just how close he is with TikTok and wanting to save it. But in terms of how he does it, so could he repeal the law? Not really. It's really hard to do that because, as I mentioned, it was a bipartisan law. Could he potentially not enforce the law? So his incoming Attorney General, Pam Bondi, could he say to her, don't enforce the law, if it appears on these platforms and people still download it, just effectively allow the law to become redundant. The problem with that, I guess, would be that what he'd be saying to the people that own these platforms is that we won't enforce the law, and they would have to take his word for it, which might be quite difficult given that Donald Trump is a pretty mercurial person, and they would want guarantees that they weren't going to be fined in any way. But he has said that he wants to find ways to save it. Ultimately, what they want is to sell TikTok off to a US company. But TikTok has said that they won't do that. I mean, there's certainly a lot of buyers in the US. That wouldn't be a problem to sell it off. But TikTok has said that they do not want to do that. So that could be one of the options. But it's worth mentioning, Matthew, that this is hugely controversial. I remember last year there were lots of protests outside the White House when the law was signed, and spoke to a lot of content creators who said, it's not just an app where I go on and, watch music videos or have fun. For many, many Americans, it's where they have their businesses. It's their livelihood. It's how they make money. For a lot of young people, it's how they get their news. So it is something that is deeply cultural now in this country, and it's hugely controversial to even ban it, which is presumably why Donald Trump wants to try and save it.
Now, separately, although the president-elect is so involved in this story, and of course China is the backdrop to everything that we are talking about with TikTok. News in the last, 45 minutes that Donald Trump has had a phone call with President Xi. Tell me more about that.
He has, and he put out at his Truth Social media platform that they talked about a lot of things, including TikTok. The Chinese President Xi Jinping also spoke a while ago. He said that they both hoped for a positive start to Chinese-US relations during the new term. And both men placed great importance on interactions. They said that they want to promote greater progress in China-US relations. I mean, TikTok is definitely going to be one of those issues that they will be talking about. As I mentioned before, lawmakers, and many of them are Republicans who are very loyal to Donald Trump, want TikTok bans. They believe that China, because it owns the algorithm, it cannot be trusted, that it's a national security issue. They're using the app to spy on Americans, that also they're using it to promote Chinese propaganda. There's no hard evidence that's been shown regarding that, but that is the concern. Let me also add that Donald Trump has invited Xi Jinping to his inauguration. I don't think he's taken up that invite, but I understand that he will be sending an envoy instead to the inauguration. So they will, as I say, TikTok will be one of those big issues that I'm sure that they will talk about. Exactly how Donald Trump plans to resolve it, we just don't know yet.
Nomia Iqbal there in Washington. Thanks for that instant analysis.
So there you have it, listeners. The Supreme Court has upheld they've upheld the law that allows TikTok to be banned in the United States. And I have so many feelings about this. First, I don't genuinely support the outright banning of a social media platform, but I think a lot of people who utilize these social media platforms, they don't understand fully the technology and the design behind them, and these concerns in terms of national security about TikTok and its beholdenness to the Chinese government cannot simply be idly brushed aside, because I think a lot of people don't understand in China there is very little severance or differentiation between what is state-owned and what is government-owned. For example, an American company wanting to do business in China or setting up shop in China has to have a Chinese representative of the government on the board.
What though, Siobhan, and I hear you on that. I want to look though on the matter regarding the incoming President-elect Trump, and what exactly he will do. It's now left in his hands in essence. It's unclear if he will do an executive order, but as the BBC reporter was indicating, if it's left to Donald Trump, what will he do? Will he instruct the individuals to just hold off on the ban? And then if that is the case, if TikTok or China upsets him, will he decide to remove the executive order? It's so unclear as to the process that will happen after Monday when he takes office.
True, and I'm sure that the incoming president, as mercurial as he is, as they pointed out, whichever wind is blowing in the direction that when he does take office will be the direction that he takes it. But I mean, I always have voiced my concerns over social media platforms, not necessarily in the broader sense, but in the specific sense of the impact it has on children. Mm-hmm. And I've said it on this platform that I don't think children should have access to social media, whichever way they want to finagle how that would be done, as in they've done in Australia, where they've banned children under the age of 16 from using social media, and I'm sure it is enforceable in some way or the other, whether it's as you require a credit card to access the platform or some form of verification to access those platforms. But I feel that social media comes with so many issues and amplifies so many issues such as anxiety, depression, addiction, that it cannot simply be left to the devices of parents alone to monitor the usage of a platform that is so easy to access. most Facebook doesn't require you to put any, doesn't allows you to use Facebook, Twitter, and many of the other social media platforms without any advanced parental controls being in place. And even in those advanced parental controls are in place, you can still use those platforms. And the impact it has on a young person's developing mind cannot be ignored. And I think we ignore it to our detriment. So when I see bans like this wholesale, yes, I don't know if I support that. But when I feel that there needs to be people stepping in to assess the impact that these platforms have on the children and take appropriate action, that is where I feel a lot of governments and a lot of people around the world lose sight of the importance.
Yeah. Yep. I agree totally with that one.
Well, listeners, we're going to be taking your calls soon, but before we go to that, I had one issue that I asked Dana to pull up from the Senate today because I found the exchange quite telling, and that was government senator and psychiatrist Dr. Sophia Longmore questioning opposition leader Mark Golding's mental capacity to lead the country. Dr. Longmore raised her concerns during her State of the Nation presentation in the Upper House on Friday. She brought to Parliament the now infamous image of opposition leader Mark Golding holding the chains of a black man in bondage during a skit at a party rally last year. The scene at the time brought widespread condemnation from the general public and the governing Jamaica Labour Party. Dr. Longmore made it clear she was not attempting to make a critique based on race. However, she says for someone seeking the highest office in the country to even be caught in such a position leaves their decision-making in question. And now we play that brief 5-minute video for you now.
They need to be reminded of their roots. It needs to be a part of our system of delivery of governance. Mr. President, the fact of the matter is we are a strong people, but we keep comparing ourselves to cultures that have the continuity of generations. We don't have that. With that continuity comes a wealth of knowledge. And when I say that we need to have that level of mass engagement, that level of mass therapy, this is one of the avenues, Mr. President, of instilling our people, of reminding our children. I don't know how many of our children knows the name of their grandfather, much less the name of their great-grandfather. You have cultures where that is a part of the child's development. And so, Mr. President, that is why I made the effort. I know it was a risk, but I made the effort to bring this to our attention. And I know the other image is another risk. Big risk, but it is not. Because we are here contemplating serious things this year. And I want for us to have a look at that image. Now, Mr. President, I am not here to critique, to talk about the mockery that was made. I'm not here to say that, look at the fact, this is not a skin color thing, no. Out of many, we are one people. But, Mr. President, for me, it is the decision-making process of someone who is seeking the leadership of this country. My son is there. And when I was preparing this slide, I did not want him to see this. Because I introduced it to him. I introduced it to him in the right way. Because in my mind, the leader of the longest black democracy in Jamaica, in the world, should not have the possibility of that image being found. The possibility, whatever made him make that decision to do that, it causes me to question his capacity to make decisions as a leader. I am not talking about skin color. I'm not talking about the fact that he was playing a skit to remove the shackles of the God. No. This is the image that is embedded, that is there now for the world, for every generation. Can you imagine this now? We are going fully into being a republic. And this would be, this or the possibility thereof, and this would be the image that we would have of our Prime Minister. No, no. That is not what I'm arguing, Senator Brown. My argument is the decision-making capacity of someone who already is established to have possible dual allegiance, who is not clearly committed to Jamaica. Mr. President, in knowing ourselves, we must know who we have at the helm of leadership. And I want each and every one of you over there to look at that and without any form of explanation relate to your children that that is your leader. No. What is wrong with it? Well, Floyd, I understand because you can't see it. And so, Mr. President, I have incited a response because I am hitting truth. I am hitting truth. I am not arguing about that. My argument is the decision to have been caught in such a compromising position. That is my argument. It is none of that. It is the fact that a leader, an aspirant to the office of leading this proud country could be caught in this position. And so, Mr. President, I now take it back to knowing ourselves in leadership, Mr. President. We are now comparing, you see? No, darling, no, that is the truth. That is exactly what I'm speaking about. It's okay, Neo. It's okay. Take him outside.
Senator. So there you have it, listeners. And just to explanation, some context there at the end. Senator Longmore's son was actually there at the proceedings of Parliament, and they had to take a brief recess for her to allow her to, I believe, attend to him after he seemed to have had a slight episode there during the segment. And I wanted to bring that back to the listeners, Sanjay, because Senator Longmore raised a point that I think many Jamaicans, including me, has dismissed or put to the back of our minds over these last 2 years or so, that it's not one single thing that Mark Golding has done that you must find yourself raising concern with. It is a series of poor decisions made on behalf of him, if not by him, on behalf of him by the People's National Party over the last period of time, relating to when it was found out that, yes, he still is the holder of a British passport. And I recall when I asked him at a press conference at the time, what was his thoughts on the notion of someone with dual allegiances sitting in the chambers of Parliament, whether the upper house or lower house, and he went in to defend the position without bringing to the attention of the media at the time, and my attention, because I asked him the question directly, that he himself was a dual citizen and that he himself was essentially advocating for himself as a member of that category. That issue kind of turned me off, because I have the greatest respect for Mark Golding, what he did as Justice Minister, and many of the policies that he put forward, including the hand he played in the creation of the Integrity Commission. Mm-hmm. But that put me off to many of the things. And then the poor decision made in terms of that skit about taking the chains off the black man in bondage. Mm-hmm. Any other sensible democracy, the United States, the UK, any sensible democracy where that would have been put on screen, that image would have been put on screen, the leader of a political party would resign and step aside. No, there wouldn't even be a question of that happening. If you saw Donald Trump standing on a political platform with a chain around a black man's neck and him holding it, I don't care how many people think Donald Trump is untouchable, how much they think he's a Teflon Don, it wouldn't stand. He would not win re-election. Simple. But because we have such little respect for ourselves in Jamaica, Mr. Golding remains not only the potential Prime Minister of Jamaica, but based on the polling recently, the front runner for the role of Prime Minister of Jamaica.
I think generally, Siobhan, I'm just gonna, extend the matter beyond just that incident with Mark Golding. I think generally that our politicians many times, they do things that when you look at the things that they do here in Jamaica and put it on a much broader international scene, if they were in any other country, and I said it the other day, they would have been asked, well, not even asked, they would have handed in their resignation. The bar is so low in this country that our politicians can do things and they simply move past it and it's business as usual. And as people within this country, we have to also demand more from our politicians. The things that we find offensive from them, we need to call them out on it because they are there as leaders to set example. And when they do things like that, we have to call them out on it and they have to do the honorable thing and resign.
And whether Mr. Lambert Brown actually says he's proud of his leader, and he can say that as much as he wants, he's beholden to the leader for his position in the Senate. I don't mean that to be disparaging. It's just a simple matter of fact. That's how the Senate works. You can tell that the members of this opposition Senate were very uncomfortable in that moment. Very much so. And the performative presentation of Mr. Lambert Brown trying to call Sapphire Longmore a racist, it was what it was. It was a pantomime. It was an attempt to deflect. That was all it was. There was no substance to it because they know that the image is bad. They know it looks terrible and they know it's not avoidable. Right. And then to add to that, I have the other concern that even after the matter of Mr. Golding's dual citizenship came to the fore, I thought any reasonable person would simply say, it's not worth holding the British passport, I'm just going to give it up and that is it. No, Mr. Golding decided that, no, I'm going to say, well, it's fine, it's okay in the law, there's no problem. But if maybe the Jamaican people have an issue with it, I'll have to go look about it. And then he went further to say, then I'll ask the People's National Party's NEC to cast a vote on it. Why would it have to come to that? If you genuinely are a self-respecting Jamaican, you shouldn't need an NEC. You shouldn't need others in the country to ask you if you're okay with it. You should have taken it upon yourself to realize this is an issue. I'm trying to lead a country, as Senator Longmore said, one of the oldest black democracies in the world. And I am the holder of a British passport seeking to lead that country while also telling that country that we should sever ties with the British monarchy. I don't understand the decision-making that is happening at the upper levels of the People's National Party when these issues come about. All they believe at the end of the day is they can brush it aside because, well, we're ahead in the polls. We can just burn it all to the ground, take any issue on any stance we want, and we will be in Gordon House come the end of 2025. And I have a serious problem with that.
Someone, Siobhan, as you talk about that, someone on radio, someone sent me a message on social media this morning, in a sense indicating that they don't see why I questioned, or both of us yesterday, questioned Donna Scott Motley on the need for the party to respond to the issue that was swirling as it relates to Lawrence Rowe. And as you indicated, many individuals who support the party, they're of the belief that let us just ride it out. We don't have to address matters such as these. And I'm happy that Dayton Campbell decided to finally address the matter, albeit so late. But that is the posture that we're seeing just generally. We don't have to address it. We can just ride it out and we will be ushered into Gordon House come September, whenever the election is called. It's just unfortunate what we're seeing.
And the sad fact of the matter is they might be right. It might be that we as Jamaicans have so little self-respect for ourselves, so little in terms of pride for what it means to be Jamaican and what it means for our heritage, that we will allow somebody to enter into office after they've made so many cultural and social gaffes. I mean, they can call Mr. Holness corrupt as much as they want, even if the evidence is still not there to suggest that. They can needle him on that, but what they can never accuse the Prime Minister of being is a poor cultural representative of his country. And that is something Mr. Golding on routine occasion has become. And they need to address it in a way that I feel is important, that they understand that they are seeking to lead the country and that it cannot be a simple matter as whatever it takes to get into government, whatever it takes, whoever we have to disparage, whoever we have to drag down, whoever we have to tear down, whatever it takes, we as the People's National Party must become the next government of Jamaica. It's disgusting. I can't put it any further than it disgusts me to my core.
Well, here's a challenge, Siobhan. And I take it back to the people. The people of the country, they must demand more from our politicians. When you look and you see that only 33% or sometimes 35%, 36% of Jamaicans who are on the voters list are actually turning out to vote, it says a lot. Many individuals are staying home. Yeah? But we have to demand more from our politicians. And if the politicians become complacent because they're saying it's the same individuals who are going to vote every time, those who are not committed to any political party, they're going to stay home, they're unattached. So why try and appease them? And it is time that those individuals, the undecided voters, they need to come out and start demanding more from our politicians, because the second that they realize that these individuals are serious about removing those who are not conforming to the standards that we expect, and voting for those who are actually carrying out those standards, the politicians will not pivot. And that is at the heart of the problem that we have right here. The PNP can be relaxed. Why? Because we are not demanding more from them. People are not going out at times to vote. And we see it at the polls.
And this is not me adding to the other issues I have in terms of you on them putting on the political platform alongside Mr. Golding, or I should say sharing a political platform with a potential Prime Minister of Jamaica, somebody who has literally been convicted of murder. You can say that it was overturned, but he was still convicted of murder. Well, I'm going to leave that there, listeners. It's time for your calls. The numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. Come chat with us.
Exciting news! The Design Studio on Nationwide 90 FM just got a whole lot bigger. Join us this and every Saturday now from 1 to 3 p.m. for an exclusive show that elevates your home, mind, and soul. Discover the latest interior design trends to create your dream sanctuary. Unlock your true potential with personal growth strategies. Nourish your body and spirit with expert wellness tips. Don't miss out on the inspiration you need to live your best life. Tune in to the Design Studio this and every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. and take the first step towards a more fulfilling you.
Make me sweat, make me harder.
Enjoy the best coverage for the things you own and those you care about. Protect what matters most with life, health, and general insurance. The time by Sagicor Life and Advantage General is
7:35.
What were the biggest stories of 2024? Was it Hurricane Beryl?
Beryl, dangerous, man. Let me tell you, boy, I'm easy with it. Pray to Jesus and say, God help us.
Was it Vybz Kartel's Walk on Freedom Street? Was it the conviction of Beachy Stout, Daniel Rowe's killer, or the man who orchestrated the killing of his wife and her taxi driver?
It was a tragic case. Justice, I believe, was certainly done.
Join George Davis and his guests from across the political divide on Monday, January 20 at 7:20 a.m. on the front page as they count down the top 15 local stories in 2024. Be on time, and we promise it'll be worth your while.
None of mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team. Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Welcome back, listeners. It is 7:38. As I said, we are taking your calls. The numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. Cleveland, you're on the line.
Hi, good evening, Siobhan and Sanjay.
Good evening, sir.
Cleveland.
Tell me something. What happened to the case with the Silvera murder case?
Still before the courts.
I just gone dead, so not a word.
You know how the court process works, Cleveland. It takes time, and it's still before the courts.
They wanna look away.
I believe the next hearing, I think Robin would be able to tell me, I believe is in a few months, if not next month, the month after.
It's a present, like everybody forgets about it.
No, man, but you know the court process,
Hello.
Cleveland.
I bet you anything. If it was about that something smell of the JLP, PNP would keep it in the news every day. You know?
Well, maybe then Cleveland, the JLP, if the PNP would do that, the JLP probably on their hand need to find ways to keep it in the news.
No, the JLP not do them type of thing, that's right. I'm not do them type of thing. I'm not do them type of thing. Then like how the leader of the opposition go all over the country and spreading corruption. And for once I don't hear it come out time out, it's the other night when I'm in Central Kingston. It never come out time out. You know?
As I said, we had to take Madam Scott Motley on that one because she claimed that he categorically denied it, and
yes, trust me.
That just was not the case. And as I said, if you listen to the interview with Dr. Campbell speak with Emily Shields this afternoon, it's quite clear why they did not categorically deny the allegations.
That's right, because they're still not denying it in a way. Because that one with the 50 million, they don't stress on it too much. You see? But you know something, as you're saying, I've always been saying it. I think the PNP end up with one of its worst leader. You know, those days, some of you may be both say is young, but I remember, Mr. Mandel sit down and have some talk. Even if you don't support him, you'd listen to his conversation. Mr. Patterson, Mr. Phillips, those people. I'm not sure I'm hearing anything concrete that you want to sit down and listen to Mr. Golding saying. It's not directing you how he will govern Jamaica.
You see, the thing though, Cleveland, as I've recognized, is that the PNP, they have adopted a campaign style which seems to be working for them, where they are pointing out the negatives of the government without giving greater details as to what they will do. And it seems that it's sticking based on what we're seeing in the polls. And if that is the case, maybe they have made a concerted decision to stick to that campaigning method since they have seen changes in our gains in their numbers when you look at the most recent polls.
And they're going to come with that as government to run Jamaica.
Well, you see, it's now for the people of Jamaica to make that decision. Based on what they have seen both parties put forward, they have to make that decision if they elect the PNP or the JLP.
And I know that you have a set of people here that bind to their style. And that is what I'm afraid of, that we're going to end up having a lot of trouble later down the road. But as me reach at a age now, because I'm going 3 score and so much, so it won't be a long year for what. I'm going to sorry for my children them and my grandchildren them. This is the type of government we're going to end up with if we dare to make the PNP bind to what they are saying and vote them in. Because I don't see them managing this place here properly at all. I don't see it. They're promising too much things and no plan. Mr. Paulwell and the other thing going to bring down, like, cut it energy thing to 30%. Right?
Well, Cleveland, what is very clear, the promises will be made, and what is very clear with this election campaigning that we are already seeing started, is going to get very nasty. And I worry about that. The information that is already swirling all over. Huh? Well, it's already started. And they have already taken even swipes at myself. And it doesn't faze me, to be very honest. But it's so unfortunate how we play so nasty in this country as it relates to politics. But this election that is coming up, it's a win at all costs.
You can rest assured of that from the PNP, sir. Trust me. So you people, none of you didn't go to them mingling.
I went to the mingle. I'm not afraid to go to anywhere in Jamaica.
You mustn't be afraid.
As I said, make no mistake, I respect what Mark Golding has done, and I believe that in terms of policy ideas and things he has implemented, he has an excellent mind. My issue with sometimes is the decisions that I believe it's not him making them. It's the decisions being made around him that gives me a negative perception of him.
And that did happen to Mr. Manley, and that's why I'm going astray. Because he had some good policy and thing, but whoever was around him mislead him about what is happening. And that is what I'm afraid of. Anyhow, make somebody else get to say something, sir.
All right, Cleveland. All the best.
Ulrich, good evening.
Good evening, Siobhan, and who is it? Robert?
Sanjay.
Sanjay, good evening, guys.
Good evening.
It's the first I've heard both of you so strident and like your biting commentary this afternoon, especially just before you went for the break and sport to Cleveland. Siobhan?
Yes.
30. When last you got a 40% turnout in any of the elections?
A very long time.
That's a good question. Right. I don't even know if I would have been eligible to vote the last time we had a 40% turnout in the election.
Hear why your commentary a while ago was so incisive. And the people who we call the so-called middle class people sit on the fences,
Precisely.
Yep, that's true.
And the people who vote are the people who it's hard to say this. I might get a lot of cussing from some of my friends when they hear and them call me tomorrow. But the people most of who vote now and has been voting for a while are the people them say you can't buy them vote. So they're not really interested in what really are going at the interest of the country, because after the election they then gone back to square one. And them the people them who supposed to help make the decision in voting to see where the country goes sit on the fence and they don't do a thing, because whichever party win, they're going to still live a certain life and make a certain amount of money and live a certain way. So then don't care.
And that is true, because the middle class has this belief that the policies of the government will not shift dramatically enough that they will be impacted one way or the other.
The PNP or the JLP win, don't shift their scale none at all.
And the irony, Ulrich, is that they won
the JLP won the 2016 election on a promise that specifically would have assisted the middle class, and that was the 1.5. So that is probably what brought them over the hurdle, and that is probably what impacted them winning that election. And I suppose a level of apathy has now set in between 2016 and 2024 that I don't know if the JLP can count on that support again.
But before I go in, your final comment about, what happened to the politicians in this country?
Mm-hmm.
Because they know that the level of most of us thinking and the regard that we have for the political structure, they can say anything and get away with it because they don't have to resign or they won't be taken down. In most other countries, they wouldn't think about saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know if that comes out of their mouth, they're gone within a week.
Precisely.
I recall, and I found this so shocking. I was watching the Houses of Parliament in the United Kingdom, and I believe it was the health secretary who showed up late, and he offered his resignation for being 30 minutes late to the proceedings. And I was flabbergasted.
But yet still, Siobhan, you have parliamentarians that have not, or probably haven't. When I saw it in the Gleaner, you had one parliamentarian that attended one session for the entire period?
3 sessions.
Or
Front page of the Sunday Gleaner. So I'm going to leave you guys. Well, Siobhan, you guys hit it this year. It's the best I've heard, you guys. Siobhan, the best I've heard. Just the truth, you guys. Right, it's just the truth, man, and it won't change. Watch and say. They'll say anything and do anything because it won't affect them. They don't resign and they don't go anywhere.
No, but credit to Dr. Sapphire Longmore. She reminded me, because sometimes we become slaves to the news cycle. I write a story one day, 3 days I have to move on to another one, and an issue just gets lost in your mind, But it was Dr. Sapphire Longmore through her presentation that reminded me there are so many continuing issues that Mr. Golding has raised over the period of his leadership of the People's National Party. That there sometimes they're not. You cannot ignore them when you actually put them together.
You heard Senator Brown backing him, though. You heard Senator Brown.
I will say this: Senator Brown is Senator Brown. He knows which camp he's in, and he knows which camp he's going to defend. It does not matter what Mark Golding says. It does not matter who is the leader of the People's National Party. He would back them.
All right, then, guys. Have a good weekend.
All the best.
Bobby, good evening.
I call Lambert Brown the opposition whip in the Senate. That's what I would call him. Hi, Bobby.
Yes, good evening, Sandra. Good evening,
good evening.
Good friend Siobhan.
Good evening.
Yes. I hear the conversation, but I just want to touch on the IC matter and what Minister Delroy Chuck has indicated, and people misinterpreting, like some sections of the media, they misinterpret what Minister Chuck had said, along with the opposition spokesperson and justice, misinterpret the gentleman, and they are calling for his resignation. What Delroy Chuck,
go ahead.
What Delroy Chuck meant to say, and you can listen back to the clip, what he said. He's trying to show us as the nation that parliamentarians approached him and indicate to him that their spouses doesn't want to release how much they get for their income. Okay, then. So what he had said to the declarant is that when they're making their statutory declaration to the IC Commission, indicate to them that their spouses refuse to indicate their income to them, right? And to be honest, the declarant cannot hold their spouses as hostage and say, look here, if you don't tell me your income, I'm going to divorce you or jail you or so on. No, that is the spouse private business. Right? And to be honest, that is the best advice Minister Chuck could give to the parliamentarians, because they come and they approach him.
Bobby, I'm not so sure that's what Delroy Chuck said, though. because he asked a question first. He says, why is the Integrity Commission asking members to indicate the salaries of their spouse or sometimes of their children? And he went further to state, I don't know if this is something that is appropriate, because I have advised the relevant members, let them know your spouse is not prepared to divulge their salary. So he didn't say that some of the spouse are unwilling to divulge their salaries. And maybe Delroy Chuck needs to come out and explain further what he was trying to say, but certainly I did not get that. What you're explaining from him based on what he said.
Well, make I tell you something. Today, the communication person for the JLP, Mr. Marlon Morgan, get in touch with Minister Chuck. And Minister Chuck indicate to him, and Marlon Morgan put it out in the media today that some of the that some individual approached him, right, with that matter, and that is the advice he gave them. Minister Chuck did not say to them that, look here, just tell the IC Commission that no, you are not going to declare the income of their spouse. It's because they come to him, and when Minister Chuck returned to the island, he will clear it up, because if you listen back to the clip that Minister Chuck said, just listen to it keenly and hear what he has to say. But the media and the opposition spokesperson, they are taking it out of line, and to be honest, Minister Chuck has done no wrong. What the opposition is trying to do is they are trying to use the IC, right, to help them to gain state power and to come to Parliament. That cannot work. They must go and face the people. The Andrew Holness administration is doing a good job, right? And right now, if you go out there on the street, just a while ago, I get caught up in traffic because the Spark program keep me up on the road, and I don't have a problem with that. Work is going on in Honest out there, and you see, the Holness administration, any member of Parliament or any minister should break the law. Look here, Prime Minister Andrew Holness wouldn't hesitate to ask that minister for his or her resignation. He doesn't keep nobody in his cabinet who have questionable circumstances along their name.
All right, I hear you, Bobby. Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
Richie, good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening again. Richie Troublemaker.
Yes, Richard. Good evening.
Anyway, me you guys keep talking about Mark Gordon leading the poor. Tell me something. How much seats PNP have in, right now? How much GLP have?
What does that have to do with the upcoming election?
I just asking. That's what I want to know.
It's 14 for the PNP now?
14 or 13? How much? But whatever. What Margon is doing to that he will overturn that amount of seats to election? You know what I believe? I believe these polls that you people talking about, they are paid to be political, to fight so that people. That's what I believe, you know.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
Remember in the last election, we had a number of individuals, a number of PNP supporters that stayed home. And there are seats that are bedrock PNP seats that went to the JLP. Seats such as Central Westmoreland, Eastern West and Western Westmoreland. And many of those seats, if you follow the politics, will easily go back to the PNP if we want to be realistic about it.
You mean in the general election?
In the general elections, yes.
Listen,
Because
listen,
remember, Westmoreland, JLP got all the 3 seats in Westmoreland.
What
That
proof
they,
do you
that,
have to-
that-
do- what proof do you have to tell me that they stayed home?
but you know it, you see it.
I don't know.
based
I
on the
don't know.
nu-
I don't know. It's first I hear about
based
it, I don't
on
know. So
based
tell me
on
your
the number of individuals who generally would turn out in the election, there are many individuals who stayed home for that particular election.
they say because-
Also,
because of what
no,
reason?
no, but hold on, you ask a question, so I'm answering.
Mm.
Many of those seats that traditionally that would go to the PNP switched to the JLP. So easily.
Well, you're talking. You're talking.
Oh God, yeah, Richie, you're not allowing me to. I'm answering. You asked me a question and was giving my opinion. I don't tell you to agree with it. So I'm now saying that easily some of those seats will go back to the PNP. So therefore, it's going to be a battle with the remaining seats now for the JLP to hold on to, or for the PNP to fight for those seats. It's going to be a very close election. That's my opinion, that it's going to be close, but it's going to be close because some of those traditional PNP seats, those bedrock PNP seats, are going to go back to the PNP, and then they are going to battle out those seats now that are up for toss and grabs.
Okay. You say it will be close, but the polls are saying that he will be winning the election. But I'm saying that it is easier for some of those PNP people to go to vote JLP now, because what the JLP is doing now, these things have never happened in history before.
But Richie, I don't think you should remember, I believe the last poll was a few months back, so.
Which poll are you talking about?
I think that was the one done by Don Anderson and the RGR group.
Yeah, that Anderson career done long time,
All right, Richie. But my point is, time moves on. Don't take that poll, that snapshot in time, to suggest that things are as they are now, and things will be as they are now when the election is actually called.
Tell me one thing that Mark Warden has done that people should that he should believe in.
Richie, you're taking this from the wrong way. As I said, you're being minded by information that is now outdated.
Mm-hmm.
Come again?
You're being minded by information that is now outdated. Time moves on.
Things can change, Richie, but as it now stands, that's what we're talking about. But things can change.
Listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
The real poll will be on the election day, yeah?
Of course, there's no doubt
nobody
about
disagrees
that.
with that, Richie.
Nobody disagrees with that.
Mark Warden is not doing nothing to impressive that way. Nothing.
But if you believe that, Richie, then things will play out that way on election day.
I don't believe it. It's no, I know.
All right, Richie. All right. When time is upon us. And we thank you, listeners and viewers, especially those who came back after our technical issues today. I really appreciate it. Carlene Smith, Rastarock Jamaica SMD, Marigold Weber, always a pleasure to see you. Josephine, Wilbert Davis, Marcia Favor Kirk, Margie G, Bailey, Petrona Smith. I'd call everybody's name, but my super producer, the lovely Dana Davey, is telling me wrap up. So, Boogs, technical operator, thank you so much for today, and all my friends and compatriots in the news and production department led by the capable Cara Powell. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, wishing for you a wonderful evening.
Exciting news! The Design Studio Nationwide